Welcome back to Hove. England have just won by a reasonably convincing margin.
69 runs.
So, yeah, good victory for England, Raf.
Yeah, it was, absolutely. Didn't quite look to be going to plan when Lizelle Lee was boshing it all around the place, but they got there in the end. Yeah.
Did you think at the halfway stage that was where it was going to get to?
Well, I know that you said that you thought that that South Africa would get nearly there, but not quite get over the line, but that they would bat out the 50 overs, and ultimately that is kind of what happened, right?
Yeah, I think that although they made quite a slow start, they made a solid start, and they did give themselves therefore a platform to start hitting out, and Lizelle Lee did that, and she was really impressive again. She's having something of a purple patch, definitely. If you look at a graph of her career, it's definitely on a big upward trend. So, you know, she's just in great form, and Laura Wolfart did her job. But, you know, once Wolfart was out, you already felt that things were probably going to start to drift a little bit.
They did start really slowly, didn't they? So maybe, do you think that they kind of mishandled the chase? Did they mismanage it?
No, I think they did the right thing in terms of, I think that they needed to make sure that, you know, they saw off England's opening bowlers. But it was always going to be a big chase. It was always going to be a tough ask, and, you know, as it proved, they didn't quite get there in the end. Lizelle Lee wasn't going to be able to do it all by herself. Chloe Tryon gave it a bash as well, and, you know, had a strike rate of approaching 200, I believe. But again, if she wasn't going to, you know, make 120, 130, you know, there was a big total that England put on the board. But I think that South Africa can still feel, you know, reasonably okay with their efforts today. You know, it was a tough game. But
I think we saw on Saturday that they were a great bowling side, and we kind of had said several times we thought that was their strength. But today they really showed that they've got some mettle with the bat as well, and they did. You know, people had kind of given up on them at 10 overs because they were just going along so slowly. But I think, you know, it was great to see Lee coming out and just boshing it all over the place and having a great time. She couldn't quite finish the job ultimately, but at least she gave it a go. Well,
as England showed, it really takes in a match like this. It takes two people to make big scores. England did that. South Africa didn't quite get there. But overall, I think it was, you know, good effort by South Africa, and I think that South Africa will certainly be confident themselves that they can come back in the third ODI and win the series and take the other 2 points. And equally, England will be, right?
Yeah. So England today obviously had a much better day than on Saturday. I suppose maybe we should reflect on what we think they did better than on Saturday. Obviously they batted much better, and one of the things that was kind of impressive was the way that, and this is kind of a bit of a hallmark of this Mark Robinson side, is that, you know, they have one bad game but they bounce back in the next game, and they really did that today. They batted so much better. They were kind of, you know, looking to be positive from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they batted really well, but it was obviously a reasonably flat track, and, you know, it was a track where you could get a lot of runs. I think that England's bowling was maybe a bit better overall, you know, and I think the, you know, massive credit goes to Sophie Eccleston for the way that she responded to Lizelle Lee's attempts to take her apart. It was interesting. My mind was cast back to being at Hove the best part of a year ago for the Kia Super League finals day, when Rachel Priest took Lindsay Smith apart. And Rachel Priest and Lizelle Lee are quite similar players, and you could see that, you know, there was just the chink of an opening where that could have happened to Sophie Eccleston. But, you know, within that over, even
over mid-wicket, wasn't she? Yeah.
She responded with a very different delivery first up afterwards. She responded with a very much faster, flatter delivery, which was almost a Yorker, which Lee had to dig out, and then a more normal delivery, but another dot ball for the last one. Then she was taken off. She came back from the other end, and responded really well. She didn't let her confidence take a battering. She threw it up there, and she took the 3 wickets that was rewarded.
Yeah, really crucial in the end. So that was really, especially for somebody quite young, for her to be able to come back like that was impressive. Do you think that Mark Robinson made the right call playing Georgia Elwys instead of Jenny Gunn today?
I'm afraid I think that,
Yeah.
that he did.
I think you're probably right,
I
Sid.
think G bowled really well.
Yeah.
She's tight. She's difficult to get away.
And she took the really crucial wicket, of course, of Lizelle Lee.
Yeah.
At a time when it looked like Lee could go on and win the game.
She was good in the field as well.
Yeah, she took that catch to dismiss.
She did make one
Nina
drop,
Priya, didn't she?
but she took a fantastic catch a
Yeah.
little later. And again, it's about not letting the bad things affect you, I guess, and then coming back and responding right to those little setbacks.
Absolutely.
So I thought she was really
yeah.
good too.
I guess I thought of the South African bowlers, if we're thinking about responding to setbacks. Marizanne Kapp was the one that really kind of did that well today. And in terms of the England racking up the runs, their most prolific 10 overs were between overs 21 and 30, and that was the only 10 overs when Kapp didn't bowl.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting stat.
I mean, she's obviously their key player. I mean, she was. If you look at the numbers from the last match, she was a little bit more expensive than the others. But she's obviously the one that the batsmen fear facing. She's the one they don't want to face. So, she's their talisman, if you like.
Yeah, she's the kind of bowler who, as she did today, she can get knocked for 6 one ball and then bowl an amazing Yorker the next. She's just good at doing that. So that was really good. Do we think that Amy Jones has done enough to cement her place at the top of the order?
I absolutely think she's done enough to certainly warrant selection in the next game. I don't think that Mark Robinson will change that. I think she played some lovely shots again today. When she's on song, she's just a fantastic player with beautiful timing. She did get out to a mistimed shot eventually today, but I think she definitely deserves another opportunity in the last ODI, and I can't see Mark Robinson making a change there. What about the point at which Danny Wyatt came in? We had a question about whether Danny Wyatt should have come in ahead of Heather Knight.
Yeah, I think that was from Kev Wright, wasn't it? Yeah, that's an interesting question. And we talked on Saturday or after Saturday's game about Danny Wyatt kind of, not having come in at a good moment for her as a player, whereas today's situation was really her bread and butter because she ended up having the last, 3 overs to just kind of knock it round a bit and have a bit of fun. And yes, she got out off the last ball, but she kind of done her job. Should she have come in above Heather Knight, I suppose she would have had a few more overs to work with. And Kev also asked who makes that call as well, which is an interesting thing to consider.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that Mark Robinson makes that call in practice in the dressing room. I mean, they'll have a lineup, obviously, which Mark will have been heavily involved in kind of deciding. And I think that England definitely do make changes to that. They are flexible because I'm fairly confident in saying that Heather Knight came in earlier than she would have done in the last match. But I think this is ideally what England wants to do. They want Heather to come in, maybe ideally with 30 odd overs left, and kind of push on the scoring, but also stay there. And then they're in a position where maybe if they were totally mapping out a game plan, Danny Wyatt would come in with 10 or 8 overs left, and then really give it a bosh at the end. Yeah. And that's kind of what obviously you can't legislate for exactly when the wickets are going to fall, but I think that order does make sense.
Sure, okay. Then we did have a couple of other questions as well. Another one from Rowena Haig, who says, is there any way to stop Lizelle Lee?
Well, there obviously are ways to stop her. I mean, she's going through a really great vein of form at the moment, and sometimes players are a bit unstoppable. I mean, bowling down the leg side at her obviously isn't helpful because you just slosh it over leg with abandon, as she showed today. But she does have other shots in her locker as well. And sometimes the best thing to do is to just try and constrain a player as much as possible. England, perhaps the one thing that they did struggle with today is they didn't take the wickets up front that they would certainly have hoped to have done. And I think we had another question about whether...
We did from Kev, which English bowler, contracted or otherwise, has the potential to be a consistent wicket-taking threat, he says.
Yeah, because it does seem that we're not taking wickets up front, and that maybe does have to be considered a bit of a problem. I mean, someone else suggested that on Twitter as well. I think that nobody in their right mind would change the opening partnership of Catherine Brunt and Anya Shrubsole. No. But there are times when you feel that the wickets just aren't falling quite as we'd like them. They're not doing quite what the South Africa's opening bowlers
did on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it has to be said that in the Mark Robinson era, the key wicket-taking bowler has been Alex Hartley. And although there are perhaps reasons why you might not want to play 2 left armers two left-arm orthodox bowlers in the same team, because it gives the opposition batsman too much of a chance to get used to that, and you erode a bit of your competitive advantage there. But I think that, really ideally, England need to get Alex Hartley back on track and to find a place for her in this team.
Yeah.
Quite who it's at the expense of is a difficult question. I mean, and those are always nice problems to have. I mean, do you drop Laura Marsh, who's been very consistent and reliable? Do you not give a spot? Do you take Danny Hazel out of the squad? Those are difficult questions, then that's why Mark Robinson at the end of the day has paid a lot more money than us, Raf.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sometimes I'm quite glad I'm not Mark Robinson. Okay, well, I think that's it for today. But overall, a great win by England, and we'll see whether they can repeat it on Friday at Canterbury.
Yep, looking forward to Canterbury. We'll see you then.
See you then.
Bye.